Welcome to today's class. We are going to discuss diuretics today in our class. In this class, we are going to discuss the classification of diuretics and one class from this in diuretics classification, carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. So, let us begin with the topic. What are diuretics? Diuretic drugs are those which generally accelerates the rate of urine formation. That means, it increases the rate of urine formation to treat many diseases, basically to treat the hypertension. So, for treating the hypertension, it is required to excrete out all the unnecessary metabolites, all the unnecessary ions which are present in our body through the urine. The most important ion which needs to be excreted out from the body, that is sodium, and the term which is used here in the diuretics for the removal of sodium, for the excretion of sodium in urine is called as natriuresis. So, the drugs that accelerate the rate of urine formation by acting on the various sites of nephron are called as diuresis, and the drugs are called as diuretics. I told you already that diuretics are used in the management of hypertension and management of edema associated. Edema means the inflammation. Edema associated with the cardiovascular, renal and endocrine abnormalities, as well as the treatment of hypertension, glaucoma and several other clinical disorders. Then here comes the classification of carbonic anhydrase inhibitor. Here we see there are several classes. So, the first is carbonic anhydrase inhibitor. In this class, we are going to study about few drugs, that is acetazolamide, methazolamide, dichlorphenamide. These are the main drugs which we are going to discuss, and the acetazolamide which we are going to discuss in detail. Next class which we are going to see, that is thiazides, again a very important class of diuretics. It has several drugs like chlorothiazide, hydrochlorothiazide, hydroflumethiazide and cyclothiazide. The drug of interest in this class for us is chlorothiazide. So, we are going to discuss the chlorothiazide in details. Next class is loop diuretics. Loop diuretics has several drugs in it, that is furosemide, ithacrinic acid and bumetanide, and the drug of interest in this class for us is furosemide. So, we are going to discuss furosemide in details. Next class is potassium sparing diuretics. In this class, spironolactone, triamterene and amiloride. There are 3 drugs in this class. So, we are going to discuss this class also. And the last class for diuretics is the osmotic diuretics. In this class, only one drug is there which we need to discuss, that is mannitol. So, let us dig in the topic. First of all, I would like to discuss the mechanism of action or the site of action where these classes are going to work on. So, you can see the structure of nephron. This is the glomerulus. This part is the proximal convoluted tubule. This, the thin part, is called as thin descending loop of Henle. Again, this loop is going upward here. So, this will be called as thin ascending loop of Henle. Then, this thick part will be called as thick ascending loop, which goes on, and this is called as, this part is called as distal convoluted tubule, and at the last it is called as the collecting duct. So, this is the full structure of a nephron. In this whole thing, the uppermost part, that means the glomerulus, the proximal convoluted tubule and the distal convoluted tubule will be covered inside the cortex, whereas in the medulla region there is thin descending loop of Henle and thin descending loop of Henle, thin ascending loop of Henle and thick ascending loop of Henle. So, this is the full structure. Now, as you can see, this is in this diagram there is a, you can see there are some ions are moving out of the nephron and some are coming reabsorbed, some are reabsorbed, some are going outside. Maximum you can see these are reabsorbed. So, and you can see the classes are written, the diuretic classes are written here at the bottom of the slide, that is the carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, osmotic diuretic, loop diuretics, thiazide, potassium sparing and aldosterone antagonist. This is another class of interest. Okay. So, as you can see, the carbonic anhydrase inhibitors works here, that means in the proximal convoluted tubule. The site of action for carbonic anhydrase inhibitor is the proximal convoluted tubule. Then for the osmotic diuretics, it works in the thick section of this, or you can say the extended section of this proximal convoluted tubule, which will then connected to the thin descending loop of Henle. Next comes the loop diuretics. Loop diuretics work in the thick ascending loop of Henle. This is the site of action of the loop diuretics, for the loop diuretics. Then comes the thiazide. Thiazide again works in the distal convoluted tubule. Please make sure to remember these things, that the distal convoluted tubule will be cited by the thiazide. Then comes the potassium sparing and aldosterone antagonist, they work at the extended portion of this distal convoluted tubule, this ultimately connected to the collecting ducts. So, these are the sites where our diuretics work on. That means, what is the main function of the nephron? Nephron works as the filtration part is done, that means the glomerulus started, as you can see the glomerulus in which the amount of fluid comes in and get filtered here, and these drugs will work on the several sites of this nephron to filter out the unwanted huge amount of metabolites, huge amount of ions through the urine. So, in this chart you can see the major segments of the nephron and their function. In the previous slide, that means this slide, we have already discussed about the sites of the nephron and our classes which will work on the sites we have discussed, and in this slide we are going to discuss about the major segments of the nephron and their functions. So, what are the major segments of the nephron? That is, first is the glomerulus, which basically do the formation of glomerular fibrate, and it has water permeability, that is extremely high water permeability, that means all the water come inside the glomerulus. Then comes the second part is the proximal convoluted tubule, which functions as it reabsorbs the 65% of sodium, potassium, calcium and magnesium ions, 85% of sodium bicarbonate and almost 100% of glucose and amino acids. That means, it from this part, from the proximal convoluted tubule, the reabsorption process has already started. So, 65% of potassium, sodium, calcium and magnesium ions and 85% of sodium bicarbonate and nearly 100% of glucose and amino acids, and isoosmotic reabsorption of water happens here also. Then water permeability is again very high. The third part, that is the proximal tubule straight fragment, that means that this is the extended part of the proximal convoluted tubule. So, how it functions? It functions as secretion and reabsorption of organic acids and bases which includes uric acid and mostly the diuretics. So, again the water permeability for this is very high. Next comes the thin descending loop of Henle, where again our one class of diuretic works. How it functions? It functions as passive reabsorption of water. Water permeability is again high. And then comes the thick ascending loop of Henle's, that is active reabsorption of 15 to 20% of filtered sodium, potassium and calcium ions, secondary reabsorption of calcium and magnesium ions. As you have already seen that in the proximal convoluted tubule, there is already reabsorption of calcium, magnesium, sodium and potassium ions happens, but in this thick ascending limb of Henle, you can see again the secondary reabsorption for calcium and magnesium ion happens. The water permeability here is very low. Till the thin descending limb of loop of Henle, the water permeability is continuously high, but here in the thick ascending limb of loop of Henle, the water permeability is very low. Then comes distal convoluted tubule. In this, there is active reabsorption of 4 to 8% of filtered sodium, calcium and chloride and calcium reabsorption under the parathyroid hormone control. That means again there is an reabsorption of calcium ions here. Water permeability is very low again. Next is the cortical collecting duct. That is the last part we have seen in the previous figure. In this, it functions as sodium reabsorption 2 to 5%, which is coupled to potassium and hydrogen secretion. The water permeability is variable. That means sometimes you can see the water permeability is more and sometimes you can see the water permeability is quite less. And the last is medullary collecting duct. This is the water reabsorption under vasopressin control. That means some hormones are also working here for the reabsorption process. And again the water permeability is variable. Sometimes you can see the water permeability is high and sometimes you can see the water permeability is low. Now, what is the where the diuretics are working, we have already discussed, but in this chart it is already written that which diuretics and what are the major effects of the diuretics is also written with the in front of the name of the segment of your nephron. Okay. Then the first class comes here, carbonic anhydrase inhibitor. So, carbonic anhydrase inhibitors are those classes of drugs which basically inhibits the carbonic anhydrase. This carbonic anhydrase is the agent which anhydrase is present in the nephron in many parts, many sites of the nephron, but the predominant location for this enzyme is the epithelial cell of the proximal tubule, that is proximal convoluted tubule. And what it does? It catalyzes the dehydration of H2CO3 into CO2 and at the lumina membrane, and then rehydration of CO2 to H2CO3 in the cytoplasm. And by blocking this carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, we can directly hit the sodium bicarbonate reabsorption, which ultimately causes the diuresis. So, if we are controlling this hormone, this carbonic anhydrase, then we can simply cause the diuresis. Then what is the mechanism of action of carbonic anhydrase inhibitors? Basically, we are discussing here the acetazolamide. The enzyme carbonic anhydrase, it helps us to make the H ions available for the exchange with the sodium and water in the proximal tubules. The simple work of enzyme carbonic anhydrase is to help the H plus ions available for the exchange with sodium and water in the proximal tubules. And what CAIs do? CAIs means carbonic anhydrase inhibitors do. They block the action of carbonic anhydrase, and hence what it is doing? It is preventing the H plus ions for exchanging with sodium and water. That means, if no sodium and waters are available for exchange with the H plus ion, that means it will cause the diuresis. Next, what it is does? Inhibition of carbonic anhydrase, it reduces the H plus ion, as I have already told you. H plus ion concentration in the renal tubules, which results in the increase excretion of bicarbonate ion, sodium, water and potassium, and reabsorption of water is decreased, hence the urine volume is increased. So, it is very important to stop the work of carbonic anhydrase by using the carbonic anhydrase inhibitors, which ultimately causes the, which reduces the exchange of H plus ions, exchange of H plus ions with sodium and water, ultimately causes the huge amount of water and excretion of sodium, potassium, bicarbonate ions through the urine. Then the drug of importance from this class is acetazolamide, how it is synthesized. So, the acetazolamide is synthesized which by the formation, the synthesis happens with 2-acetyl amino 5-mercapto 1,3,4 thiadiazole. When it reacts with benzyl chloride, it forms an intermediate, and ultimately in presence of ammonia, chlorine, acetic acid and water, it forms acetazolamide. So, the acetazolamide, the synthesis is very easy. It is a single step synthesis, in which, again I am repeating the process. When 2-acetyl amino 5-mercapto 1,3,4 thiadiazole reacts with benzyl chloride, it makes the intermediate, and then the intermediate reacts with ammonia, with chlorine and acetic acid, and in presence of water it happens, and ultimately there is a formation of acetazolamide. Then comes the SAR of acetazolamide, how it works. We have seen the structure of acetazolamide. So, there are certain points which are very important for the activity, the potent activity of acetazolamide as carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. So, the presence of sulfonamide moiety, this moiety is very important for the diuretic activity. If this group hampers any kind by anything, the diuretic activity will be suppressed. So, the presence of sulfonamide moiety is necessary for diuretic activity. Then the nitrogen group of sulfonamide, this nitrogen group of sulfonamide, it should be unsubstituted. That means, no bigger group should be substituted at this point for the proper diuretic activity. So, this nitrogen should be free, or a very small group that like hydrogen can be added to this group. Next is, if the methyl group is substituted at nitrogen, again methyl group is a small group, we can substitute the nitrogen with the methyl group and the activities remain same. If we substitute this nitrogen with any bigger moiety, then the activity can be hampered. What are the uses of this class? The use for this class of carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, or we can say that acetazolamide, it basically agent in the long term management for open angle glaucoma. That means, the edema, in the very first slide we have discussed the management of edema. These drugs are used in the management of edema related with the cardiovascular, renal and other things. So, here we can use this drug in the long term management of open angle glaucoma. This drug is again used with myotics to lower the intraocular pressure before ocular surgery in certain cases, and also it is used in the treatment of edema, epilepsy and high altitude sickness. Then comes the osmotic diuretics. Osmotic diuretics, as the name suggests, it does the function of osmosis. Osmosis means the transfer of ions from high concentration to the lower concentration, that means osmotic. That is why these diuretics are named as osmotic diuretics. So, in this class what happens here is the proximal convoluted tubule and the descending loop of Henle are freely permeable to water. We have discussed in one of our previous slides that the proximal tubule and the descending loop of limb of Henle's loop are freely permeable to water. Any osmotically agent that is filtered by the glomerulus but not reabsorbed causes water to be retained in these segments and promotes a water diuresis. Such agents can be used to reduce pressure, basically the intracranial pressure, to promote prompt removal of renal toxins. Toxins means the huge amount of sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, chloride ions here, which are present in the huge amount. They should be excreted out through the urine, and the volume of water which increases and causes the urine volume to be increased so much. So, the proximal tubule and descending limb of loop of Henle's are water permeable, hence these osmotically active agents works there only. So, that they can cause the non reabsorption of those ions which needs to be excreted out in the urine. So, the prototypic osmotic diuretic here is the mannitol. How these works? Osmotic agents such as mannitol are very low molecular weight compounds and they are freely filtered through the Bowman's capsule. Hence, they have very limited reabsorption because of the high water solubility, and osmotic diuretics increases the volume of water and almost all the electrolytes. So, it is very important for these osmotic diuretics to be high water soluble, so that they can be easily filtered through the Bowman's capsule to the glomerulus and ultimately reach where the site they work on. So, the osmotic agents such as mannitol works like this only. So, the use for osmotic diuretics can be is in the treatment of patients in the early phase of ARF, that is acute renal failure. So, if a patient is going through a condition of renal failure, it has already started, it is in acute condition. So, the patients can be treated with the early phases, patients can be treated with the osmotic diuretics. Then it promotes the excretion of toxin substances. The toxic substances, that means the huge amount of metabolites, the huge amount of ions which are harmful for us are excreted through this osmotic diuretics by the action of osmotic diuretics. Then the reduction of intracranial pressure and the treatment of cerebral edema. So, as we have seen that these drugs, these diuretics are work upon the condition, that is edema, and this edema condition is controlled by the all the diuretic agents which we are going to study in our next slides. So, let us discuss once again, let us summarize our the class. Diuretics, that is diuretics are those drugs which generally increases the amount of urine, increase the urine production because they causes diuresis. How they cause diuresis? They simply do not allow the reabsorption of those sodium, magnesium, calcium, chloride ions because they stops the absorption, the reabsorption by do not exchanging the H plus ion with these ions, that is sodium, calcium, potassium, magnesium, chloride. So, by increasing these in the urine outflow, that is they cause diuresis. And one more thing it is doing that comes under diuresis, that is called as natriuresis, means the removal of sodium. The increased amount of sodium present in our body is excreted out through the urine, and it is already called as natriuresis. So, these are the agents we have discussed, that these are the agents which are used in the management of edema conditions. The edema conditions can be from any type, like it can be cardiovascular, it can be renal, it can be endocrine abnormalities. The diuretics agents hence used in the treatment of hypertension, glaucoma and several other clinical disorders. And the classification goes carbonic anhydrase inhibitor. In this class, the carbonic anhydrase enzyme is inhibited by the action of these agents like acidazolamide, methazolamide and dichlorphenamide. Then the thiazide class has 4 drugs in it, that is chlorothiazide, hydrochlorothiazide, hydroflumethiazide and cyclothiazide. Next class is the loop diuretics. In the loop diuretics there are 3 drugs, that is furosemide, ethacrenic acid, bumetanide and potassium sparing diuretics, that is spironolactone, triamenterine and amiloride. Last class is osmotic diuretics. In this class mannitol comes under this, and this is the structure we have discussed, that these are the sites where the diuretic agents are used. So, the carbonic anhydrase inhibitors are basically site basically shows its action in the proximal convoluted tubule. Then the osmotic diuretics works in the extended part of the proximal convoluted tubule, that is the thick proximal convoluted tubule, which is comes descending. Then comes the loop diuretics, they work in the thick ascending loop of Henle. Then thiazides work in the distal convoluted tubule. Potassium sparing and aldosterone antagonists work in the just before the collecting ducts, the extended part of distal convoluted tubule they work on. So, we have already discussed the major segments of the nephron and their functions. We have seen the water permeability. So, the glomerulus, the proximal convoluted tubule, the glomerulus, the proximal convoluted tubule, the proximal tubule, that straight segment, then the thin descending loop of Henle. Till here the water permeability is high or very high. After that, the thick ascending limb of loop of Henle, the distal convoluted loop, they have very low water permeability, and the last cortical collecting tubule, medullary collecting tubule, they have a variable water permeability. That means, the water permeability can be high sometimes and can be low sometimes. Then we have discussed the carbonic anhydrase inhibitors. As I have told you, it stops the carbonic anhydrase inhibitor, which was what was the work of carbonic anhydrase inhibitors? They stops the carbonic anhydrase, ultimately they stops the exchange of H plus ions with sodium and water. Ultimately there is no absorption of sodium ions and they get excreted out through the urine. So, causes the diuresis. Then the acetazolamide, we have discussed the synthesis here of acetazolamide, the SAR. In whole SAR, we have seen the gist of the SAR is the sulfonamide moiety is very important for the diuretic activity. The uses, we have seen the uses, the long term management of open angle glaucoma and intraocular pressure in certain surgeries, edema, epilepsy and high altitude sickness can also be treated with this. Then comes the osmotic diuretic, as the name suggests, it is works on the function of osmosis, and the drug here is mannitol. The mechanism of action, because it is a very low molecular weight and it is easily water soluble, it is very much higher water soluble and is filtered through the Borroman's capsule very easily. Hence, it increases the water volume and almost of all the electrolytes can be excreted out. They can be used in the treatment of patient in early phase of ARF. They promote the excretion of toxic substances and reduce the intracranial pressure and the treatment of cerebral edema. Here are the references which I have taken. That means there are some books, that is Wilson Giswold, The Synthesis of Essential Drugs, the Bertner and Katzung, Thomas and Lemke, that is Foy's medicinal chemistry book, Lippincott and B. Sriram and P. Yogiswari. These books I have referred for making the slides here. Hope this was helpful. Thank you so much.